Am I visible now? Okay, okay, okay. Okay, very good evening to all of you. Right. So we have to discuss a topic that is Napoleon. Again, that's a very important personality in the world history. So we have to know about the basics of Napoleon. So basically, I have discussed with you that in the consulate system where there were three councils, Napoleon was the first council. And this was the time period of the consulate system 1799 to 1804. Here, Napoleon, okay, was the first council. And technically, here, a kind of military system of administration came into practice where the entire power was concentrated in the hands of Napoleon. So, this is the point, that the entire power is concentrated in the hands of Napoleon, right? Now, during this phase, in the consulate rule phase, Napoleon introduced a lot of reforms. For example, he ensured many important military victories here also. Many important military victories. And due to this, he became popular, okay, among the French population. He also introduced many economic changes, you can say reforms, okay. There was a problem, that is inflation. It was controlled to some extent. The problem or challenges of unemployment was also solved to a large extent, and to some extent Napoleon was also able to bring stability, that is political stability, to bring political stability in France. He was able to control, he was able to suppress the feudal elements also, okay. And at the same time, the religion and the religious forces, okay, their power was also curtailed. So all these reforms were introduced by Napoleon as a first council. Obviously, from the 1789 onwards, almost 10 years have passed, and now the people were looking for political stability, because this political stability will bring what? This political stability will bring economic prosperity. So the people were expecting these things from the republic government, but this did not happen, okay. In the rule of moderate republicanism, in the rule of radical republicanism, now the people were seeing some hope in the Napoleon, that he will be able to bring back the glory of France. This might be a possibility that under the leadership of Napoleon, France will emerge as one of the most important political power in Europe. So now the people are very much optimistic about Napoleon, okay. Now, in these circumstances, Napoleon will get popularity, and when he will realize the sentiments of the people, he will do what? He will declare himself as Emperor of France. Now, this is a very important point here, that this is the time period 1814 to 1814, 1804 to 1814-15, and here in 1804, Napoleon declared himself as Emperor of France. Emperor of France. Now the entire journey started opposing absolute monarchical system. And here Napoleon is doing what? Napoleon is declaring himself as the Emperor of France. Okay. Now this is a very strange situation. And at the same time, Napoleon, it is also said about Napoleon that Napoleon was the child of revolution. Now I hope you understand this context, okay. When you find this word, Napoleon was a child of revolution, or the circumstances made Napoleon Emperor of France. Now you can easily understand this concept, that the circumstances made Napoleon Emperor of France. Circumstances made Napoleon Emperor of France. जस्ट इमेजिन कि अगर ये सर्कमस्टेंसेस नहीं होते, पॉलिटिकल स्टेबिलिटी होती, इकोनॉमिक चैलेंजेस नहीं होते, तो क्या नेपोलियन इमर्ज कर पाता एज एन एम्परर? नो. इन दिस रेस्पेक्ट वी आर कॉलिंग हिम चाइल्ड ऑफ revolution. And he is also claiming, Napoleon is also claiming that I will do what? I will promote the ideals of French Revolution. Ideals of French Revolution. He is also claiming that he will promote the progressive ideas that were generated as a result of Renaissance and Age of Enlightenment. He is also promising that he will promote these ideas, progressive ideas that were generated from Renaissance, that were generated from Age of Enlightenment. Okay, I will just what do I will promote the spirit of French Revolution. It means it is a clear cut message that dynastic rule will be uprooted. It's a clear cut message that feudal elements will be controlled. It's a clear cut message that the influence of religion and religious authorities on the society will be checked upon. So, this is a clear cut message. But there is a contradiction also, that he himself is a emperor, and he says that the people of France wanted liberty, not sorry, but the people of France wanted liberty, equality, not liberty. Napoleon says this, that the people of France, obviously the people will question that how Napoleon can be an emperor. Now he says that the people of France, Napoleon says that the people of France wanted liberty. The people of France wanted liberty. He is saying that not sorry, the people of France wanted equality. Right, this wanted equality, not liberty. The people of France wanted equality, not liberty. Basically, what was the slogan of the French Revolution? The slogan of the French Revolution was liberty, equality, and fraternity. And what Napoleon is saying? Napoleon is saying that the people in France wanted equality. This was their main demand. Okay, they don't want liberty, they wanted equality. Okay, are you understanding the context here? This is what contradiction. Okay, contradictory belief system. Napoleon is doing what? Okay, we see a kind of contradiction here. Napoleon is contradicting. Okay, on one side he is claiming to promote the ideas of revolution, but when he makes this statement, it's quite clear that at the same time he is also assassinating the ideas of revolution. When you are saying that the people don't want liberty, what does it mean? You are also assassinating the ideas of revolution. You are the child of revolution. At the same time, you are also assassinating ideas of revolution. You are claiming to promote ideals of revolution. At the same time, you are discouraging one ideal of revolution. Why Napoleon said that the people of France wanted equality? Because what was the main reason behind the French Revolution? So I have already discussed with you, the French Revolution was an attack on a privileged based system and order. समझ में आया? सिस्टम ऑफ प्रिविलेजेस, इसी पे तो सबसे बड़ा अटैक था. फर्स्ट स्टेट, सेकेंड स्टेट, थर्ड स्टेट, ठीक है. privileges were given to first state, second state. So it was an attack on privilege based system and order, and this is what Napoleon is saying, that it was an attack on privilege based system and order. Now this is Napoleon. Have you got some ideas about Napoleon? Now we will learn a few more concepts about Napoleon, right? And what are these concepts? So in last class I have told you that one thing that is very important for us to understand is Napoleon's code, or code of Napoleon. Napoleon's code, that is code of Napoleon. It was called civil code in 1804, but in 1807 it was named as Napoleon code. Okay, the second important thing that we need to understand is that through this Napoleon code we will try to understand what are the reforms initiated by Napoleon. That is one important approach here. That's very important approach. And the second important concept that we need to learn is military conquests of Napoleon. Military conquests of Napoleon. So here we need to discuss, we need to have a basic idea only. but the optional students need to read about, okay, 4 to 5 important military conquests, not GS students. Taken na? We need to read only 1 or 2 episodes from the entire, okay, picture. So for GS we need to read a very limited part here. So I will discuss that basic idea about the military conquest, plus there is another important topic that is to be read here, and that is continental system. Read this: continental system, or system of economic blockade, system of economic blockade against Great Britain, against Great Britain. Okay, this we need to understand. We need to understand that how BOP, how balance of power shifted in the favor of France, how balance of power shifted in the favor of France. We also need to understand, because First World War, Second World War is also the war of what? Power dynamics. Balance of power shifted in the favor of some particular nations at some particular time interval. So it's all that. So we need to understand that how balance of power shifted. Okay. Now, the third important point that we need to understand here is that how an anti-France alliance was formed. Anti-France alliance or anti-Napoleon alliance. How anti-France alliance or anti-Napoleon alliance was formed in Europe. Okay, we need to understand this, that how anti-France alliance, how anti-Napoleon alliance was formed in Europe, and defeat of Napoleon, defeat of Napoleon. And after this, we need to understand important changes introduced, important changes that were introduced after defeat of Napoleon. Very simple concept. Important changes that were introduced after defeat of Napoleon. So this is all these are the concepts, and we need to understand these concepts. Okay. So first I will start with Napoleon code. That is code of Napoleon. That's a very important topic. We must know this. Clear? Because many times you will find that in general studies, the questions that are asked, or even they are not asked, the understanding that we must have so that we could use it in other papers of GS or essay is that significance of all the important revolutions of the world. We must have this understanding, that why French Revolution was significant, why Russian Revolution was significant, why American Revolution was significant, why Civil War in America was significant, right? And what are the messages that were promoted, okay? What we learned from these revolutions. So these are the simple ideas that we must have, okay? So we can use it while writing the answers in the mains examination. So here, first we are going to discuss this topic, that is Napoleon Code. Okay, the year is 1804. Napoleon becomes the emperor, comes with this code, Napoleon Code, and he claims here also it was defined. What was defined? It was defined, the concept of equality before law was defined, and that is the most important thing, that the concept of equality before law was defined. Before, let's look at some slides, then I will discuss the core concepts here. Okay, so the slide will help us a little bit. Okay, so Napoleon Code, what is about this Napoleon Code? So this, in this Napoleon Code we find that this is a kind of modern code of laws. What has been written here? If you look at this slide, you will find that here it has been written that it was one of the first modern code of laws. This is the progressive element. This code did what? It unified French law and became the model for the legal system in most other nations in the world. Okay, it means that not only for France but for many other nations of the world, this Napoleon Code emerges as the model. It was one of the first modern progressive code of laws. Okay, and why it was needed in France, it has also been said that in Napoleon's time, by Napoleon's time, it means by this year, that is 1804. Before this, in France, there was a confusion. Confusion over what? So confusion of customary, feudal, royal, revolutionary, church, and Roman laws existed in France. It means that there were different system of laws. The system of law was not unified. The system of law was not well established, right? Now, the system of law was not also supported by a valid document, and due to this, there were different legal systems in the country. In different parts of France, there were different legal systems that were in practice, and here there is a reference of famous French writer Voltaire. About Voltaire, we have discussed. He said that ancient Roman Empire was neither holy nor ancient. This is the same person. And what Voltaire writes? So Voltaire writes that a man traveling across France would have to change laws as often as he changed the horses. ठीक है, अगर आप फ्रांस में घूम रहे हो तो आप समय समय पे जैसे घोड़ों को बदलने की जरूरत होती है, जैसे आजकल हमें फ्यूल डलवाने की जरूरत होती है, इन द सेम वे ही सेज दैट द लॉज आल्सो चेंज्ड इन दिस मैनर. इट मींस, is there any uniformity of law? No. Is there any defined system of law? No. So before Napoleon, it means before 1804, this was the challenge in France. There was no unified law. There was no unified law. And Napoleon comes with this idea, with this progressive idea of Napoleon Code, that all laws should be simplified, right? The laws should be systematized into a single document. This is the idea. Napoleon emphasized on what? Napoleon emphasized on what? To simplify all laws. Okay? To simplify all laws. सारे laws को क्या करना है? Simplify करना है. To unify all laws, to systematize. This is also an important point. To systematize and unify all laws, to systematize and unified all laws in a single document. In a single document. Do you understand the importance of this? ये बहुत बड़ी बात है. And what Napoleon says? Napoleon says that the laws which we are making, the laws which we are developing here, they must be based on reason and common sense. Is it progressive? Yes. Is he promoting the progressive ideas of revolution? Yes. So Napoleon says that the laws must be based on reason and common sense. The laws must be based on reason. It means he says that we must promote reason. We must promote what? Common sense. This is progressive. That's why I said that Napoleon supported what? The progressive ideas of revolution. Napoleon also says that all men should be treated equal under law. This is very progressive. All are equal. Is it against the system of privileges? Yes. System of privileges क्या करता था? Nobility और feudal class को ज़्यादा importance देता था. And what Napoleon is saying? Napoleon is saying that all men, read this, all men be treated. All men should be treated, okay, equal under law. All men should be treated equal under law. Now this point is very important. All men should be treated equal under law, because before 1804, okay, before 1789, there was a system of privileges in Europe, basically in France. System of privileges. There was privileged class, there was non-privileged class. All were not treated equal, and that is the most important point. And this law is here. The codification of law will be done. Codification of law will be done, and here you will find laws that were related to property, laws that were related to family, laws that were related to individual rights also, community rights also, laws that were related to individual rights, laws that were related to community rights. It means it was a wide, it was a, you can say that, broad, okay, uh, explanation. Now, criminal law, civil law, they were separated. Commercial laws were made, property law, family law. In this way, each and everything was documented. Individual rights were made. Okay, so सारी चीजें document हुई. Criminal law, civil law, right? Individual rights, family law, all was, all was okay. And what about the hereditary nobility? That was a part of social structure in France. Hereditary nobility समझ रहे हो? 1789 के पहले जो सिस्टम था हेरिडिटरी नोबिलिटी, that hereditary nobility will be rejected. Hereditary nobility will be rejected. What about the class privileges? Those class privileges will also be rejected. Now let's discuss some more, let's look at some more slides and we will get a more clear idea. Okay, it means Napoleon here was determined to what? Determined to unify France into a strong modern nation. Is it a contribution of Napoleon? Napoleon was determined to unify France into a strong modern nation. And what else? So Napoleon pushed for a single set of written laws. I am saying what? Single set of written laws that applied to everyone. That is the most progressive thing. It's not for a particular class of individuals. It was applying to everyone, and he appointed a commission, law commission, to prepare this code of. Is it clear? He appointed a commission. These people will come and report to Napoleon कि काम कैसा चल रहा है law making का, ठीक है? So this was Napoleon. He was promoting some progressive developments. Yes, it all was happening under an emperor, but yes, this was progressive. Okay, and what is the Napoleon's intentions behind this? So he want a clear, logical, and easily law that is easily understandable by all citizens. कितनी बड़ी बात है कि law कैसी होनी चाहिए? Written in the simple language that could be easily understandable by all the citizens. This is the most important point. And this law commission, composed of Napoleon along with many legal experts from different parts of France. Okay, and this will work for several years. Okay, now this code came into existence in which year? 1804. I have already discussed with you that it came into existence, but in 1807 it was named as Code Napoleon. In 1804 it was called Civil Code of France. इसका नाम क्या था? Civil Code of France. In 1807 it was called Code Napoleon. Is it clear? Now, okay, these laws greatly affected people's life. Obviously this is one of the most important contribution. Now what is the next important point? The civil code is trying to do what? Okay, civil code, the main objective behind this civil code is to achieve a compromise between the past and the revolution. This point is very important, that what were the political social conditions in France before 1789 and what are the aspirations of French Revolution 1789, okay, to make the balance between these two things. ठीक है ना? It means do you think that Napoleon completely rejected ideas of revolution? No, he is trying to make a balance between these two, right? He's trying to make a balance. He's trying to come for a compromise between these two. Okay, and now this rejected what? Feudal system. This rejected the royal privileges. Okay, and it applied what? All citizens equality. It means all are equal in the eyes of law. That is the most important point. All citizens equality. It included some rights such as freedom of speech and worship along with public trial by jury. That is the most important point. Freedom of speech, freedom of worship. What about the dominance of religion? Dominance of religion will come down or not? Yes, dominance of religion will come down. Religion becomes a private affair. Okay, when you say that the freedom of worship, in that case religion becomes what? A kind of private affair. This was happening here. It allowed individuals to choose their own occupation. When an individual is free to choose his or her own occupation, this is an indication of disintegration of feudal system. That is the most important thing, that feudal system was declined. But there is a weakness, that it banned worker organization. This is what weakness of this code. This is what weakness of this code. It banned worker organization. It means the one person is employer and the another person is employee. So according to Napoleon Code, who was more dominant? Employer, not employee. It means workers organizations were banned. So here we see a kind of compromise with the workers' right, and that is a kind of weakness. So this point can be counted as weakness of Napoleon Code. Let's discuss a few more points. देखो, after all this discussion, you need to have at least you need to write at least 50-60 words. इतना तो लिख लोगे ना. Now you have started thinking. Okay, I will discuss a lot, but after this discussion you will be able to grasp the crux or the essence of this entire topic. This is our basic purpose. Now civil code dealt with the right of property. ये भी बहुत important है. Civil code was dealing with the right of property, and what has been defined here? The right to enjoy and to dispose of one's property in the most absolute fashion. Okay, this is the point here. But what is landed property? Okay, that age, that is 18th century, 19th century, beginning of 19th century. So land is an important thing because the aristocracy was landed aristocracy. So it was considered absolute. Some limitations were applied. What are the limitations? Only the legitimate children of a landowner could inherit his land. Okay, only legitimate children will inherit the land. This is also some limitation. मेरी बात समझ गया ना? Today in progressive system of laws, okay, if some person proves that he or she is your son or daughter, in that case he will inherit your property. ठीक है, ऐसे बहुत सारे मामले हुए हैं. ठीक है, 20-25 साल के बाद लोग प्रूव कर देते हैं. ठीक है, तो अब ये नहीं था. दिस इज व्हाट लिमिटेशन. ओके, द लैंड ओनर्स चिल्ड्रन हैड टू शेयर इक्वली इन द इनहेरिटेंस. दिस वाज आल्सो गिवन. ठीक है, कि सारे बच्चों को बराबर शेयर मिलेगा. राइट नाउ this again I am coming to one weakness. And what is the weakness? That a wife could not inherit her dead husband's land because the blood family would then no longer own it. This is the weakness. Okay, it means that there are many more points where you will find that okay, the system of law or Napoleon Code was patriarchal in its mindset. In education system also you will find that it is patriarchal. For example, Napoleon supported education for all, education for women also, but Napoleon said that the women should be given the kind of the education with which they could please their husbands. ठीक है, they could do some domestic works. इस तरह की एजुकेशन women को मिलनी चाहिए. ठीक है, तो बताओ ये भेदभाव है कि नहीं? सीधा सीधा. ओके, तो यहाँ पे पैट्रियार्की से इंस्पायर्ड चीजें हमें देखने को मिलती हैं. We find the elements that were inspired by this patriarchy. Right now look here, the revolution's law that a civil authority must conduct marriages. एक civil authority marriage conduct कराएगी. दूसरी चीज देखो, the father ruled his children. A father could veto his son's marriage until 26 and that of his daughter until 21. could veto. शादी करना है कि नहीं करना है? If it's a boy, तो up till 26 years of age father can veto. मेरी बात समझ गया ना? तो यहाँ पे भी क्या है, थोड़ा बहुत लिमिटेशन है. फादर्स इवन हैड द राइट टू इम्प्रिजन देयर चिल्ड्रन एट विल. ठीक है, अभी आपके पापा को पता चल जाएगा तो कहेंगे यही लागू होना चाहिए नियम. ओके, फादर्स मस्ट हैव द राइट टू इम्प्रिजन देयर चिल्ड्रन एट विल. ओके, like other system of the time, legal code made the wife legally inferior to her husband. This is weakness. Wife legally inferior to her husband. The husband owes protection to his wife and the wife owes obedience to her husband. जिम्मेदारी क्या है कि हस्बैंड क्या करेगा? वाइफ को प्रोटेक्ट करेगा और वाइफ क्या करेगी? ठीक है, पति को परमेश्वर मानेगी. owes obedience to the husband. ये करना है. इसके बाद क्या है? विदाउट हर हस्बैंड्स परमिशन अ वाइफ कुड नॉट कंडक्ट एनी बिजनेस. ठीक है, दिस इज व्हाट patriarchal mindset. Without the husband's permission, a wife cannot conduct any business. Moreover, she could not make contracts. ये भी नहीं हो सकता. इसके बाद क्या है? कम्युनिटी प्रॉपर्टी से रिलेटेड कुछ रूल्स हैं यहाँ. ओके, नाउ बाय द कोड लिमिटेड द प्रोग्रेसिव आइडिया. द हस्बैंड अलोन लीगली कंट्रोल्ड ऑल द फैमिली एसेट्स ड्यूरिंग द मैरिज, इंक्लूडिंग एनी प्रॉपर्टी हिज वाइफ पॉसेस्ड बिफोर गेटिंग मैरिड. इट मीन्स कंट्रोल किसका होगा? हस्बैंड का होगा, इंटायर वेल्थ इंटायर प्रॉपर्टी पे। सो दैट इज द लिमिटेशन, ओके, इट इज मोर फेवरेबल टू द मेन। अच्छा, डिवोर्स के बारे में क्या रूल है, ये भी बड़ा इंटरेस्टिंग है, ठीक है। क्या, ठीक है, लगा दिए जाते हैं, ठीक है, शादी नहीं होगी बेटा गिरीश। चलो, द रिवॉल्यूशन द रिवॉल्यूशन हैड इंट्रोड्यूस्ड। अब देखो डाइवोर्स का कितना इंटरेस्टिंग रूल है यहाँ, ओके। डाइवोर्स, यस, दिस सिस्टम वाज देयर, ओके, हस्बैंड एंड वाइफ बोथ कैन टेक डाइवोर्स, बट द कंडीशन इज दैट, ये बड़ा इंटरेस्टिंग है, हस्बैंड के केस में डाइवोर्स क्या है, द रिवॉल्यूशन हैड इंट्रोड्यूस डाइवोर्स फॉर द फर्स्ट टाइम इनटू फ्रांस। अच्छा देखो, जब डाइवोर्स का कॉन्सेप्ट आएगा सो कैथोलिक चर्च विल अपोज इट। So this idea was against the established beliefs and the practices of Catholic Church. That's why I said that the dominance of the religion, it was crumbling at that time. और वो क्या है, बड़ा इंटरेस्टिंग है यहाँ देखो, husband could get a divorce if his wife committing one act of adultery anywhere. बस उसको एक बार एविडेंस मिलना चाहिए, और यहाँ पे क्या है, एनीवेयर, ठीक है, इनसाइड द हाउस आउटसाइड द हाउस कहीं से भी पता चल गया, वन एक्ट ऑफ एडल्ट्री, तो हस्बैंड कैन फाइल द, ओके, केस फॉर डिवोर्स। नाउ वाइफ के केस में क्या है, ओके, नाउ वाइफ कुड सिक्योर अ डिवोर्स ऑन द ग्राउंड्स ऑफ एडल्ट्री, एडल्ट्री इज ग्राउंड ओनली इफ हर हस्बैंड कमिटेड द एक्ट, यहाँ क्या लिखा हुआ है, विद इन द फैमिली होम। मेरी बात समझ गया ना, तो थोड़ा फ्रीडम ज्यादा है, ठीक है, मेल मेंबर्स ऑफ द सोसाइटी को, तो इट्स अ लिटिल बिट पैट्रियार्कल। सारे पॉइंट्स लिखने नहीं है, मैं आपको समझा रहा हूँ कि आपको एक पूरा एक आइडिया आ जाएगा आपके दिमाग में, यू विल स्टार्ट, यू डोंट नीड टू रिमेंबर द पॉइंट्स, ठीक है ना, दैट्स व्हाई आई एम डिस्कसिंग नाउ। सिविल प्रोसीडियर, कॉमर्शियल कोड आई हैव ऑलरेडी डिस्कस्ड, criminal laws, and all this were introduced by this Napoleon Code. Okay, that's the most important thing. Now, use of reason was promoted in framing of legislations and laws. कहीं कहीं पे use of reason compromise भी है, जो हमें साफ साफ दिख रहा है, right? Now, this point is very important that today, okay, how the laws will be interpreted to the certain cases. What has been said here? Court's decision generally do not apply for the future cases. Court decision generally will not apply for the future cases. Today, what happens in our current legal system? Court decisions apply for the future cases. देखो लॉयर क्या करते हैं, बताते हैं ना कि सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने या हाई कोर्ट ने ये डिसीजन दिया था, तो अब उसके अकॉर्डिंग आप डिसीजन दो, ओके, बट हियर व्हाट विल हैपन, कोर्ट डिसीजन विल नॉट अप्लाई टू द फ्यूचर केसेस। नाउ द इंटायर डिस्कशन मीन्स व्हाट, इतनी सारी चीजें बात करने का मतलब क्या है, दैट वी सी दैट this is a very progressive thing. First time the code, the laws were codified, the laws were unified, first time equality before law, this concept was applied, first time we see that the use of reason is being promoted, the feudal privileges have been rejected, right? That is the most important thing, that the dominance on the authority of religion has been curtailed, okay. The family laws, commercial laws, civil law, criminal law, each and everything was described in detail, and this is okay, this is what a great achievement for the Napoleon, ठीक है ना, that's the most important thing. And Napoleon will apply this Napoleon code in France also, and in those territories also which he will conquer, which are the part of other nations, which he call sister republic, वहां पे भी इन आइडियाज को ले जाएगा. Now can we accept this thing, can we say that the Napoleon Code was an expression of the ideals of revolution? To some extent, yes, there are weaknesses, but these are the weaknesses of the time, the age. Yes, Napoleon Code was an expression of the progressive ideas of revolution to some extent. So if I say that through this Napoleon Code, Napoleon was also promoting the ideals of revolution to other countries of Europe, is it correct or not? Yes, it's correct. Suppose there is a state which is ruled by a monarch. Napoleon will conquer and invade some of the territories. That part will become the sister republic. Or Napoleon conquers the entire state. So in that state, what will happen? Napoleon Code will be implemented. When Napoleon Code will be implemented, what will happen? The people will become more familiar with the progressive ideas of revolution. पहली बार उनको ये एहसास होगा कि ऐसा भी हो सकता है. Feudal privileges can be ended. All could be treated equal in the eyes of law. ये बहुत बड़ी बात है उस कॉन्टेक्स्ट में. So this all was happening, and this Napoleon Code, the what is the significance part of this Napoleon Code? It influenced US also, right? A country that stepped in the traditions of common law. 1808, all this Thomas Jefferson. ये एक लुइसियाना का जिक्र किया गया है, वहाँ पे अभी भी नेपोलियन कोड है ना इफेक्टिव है. So that is an example. Now, okay, what has been written that his most lasting legacy is what? It's not his military conquest, but rather his foresight in realizing the unified effect of laws applying to all. यानी कि नेपोलियन किस लिए जाना जाता है? क्या वो अपने केवल मिलिट्री कॉन्क्वेस्ट के लिए जाना जाता है? His military conquest was very important. He conquered more than 40 battles in Europe. More than 40. 10 तो बहुत ही significant है. 10 are the most significant. Balance of power came in the favor of France. Okay. And Napoleon alone was successful in changing the entire political map of Europe. पूरा का पूरा political map बदल के रख दिया. But yet Napoleon himself acknowledged that Napoleon himself acknowledged, ये खुद Napoleon acknowledge करता है कि my real glory is not the 40 battles I won. ठीक है, वो मेरा real glory नहीं है. For my defeat at Waterloo will destroy the memory of those victories. ठीक है, चाहे मैंने जितनी भी लड़ाइयाँ जीत ली, सिर्फ एक हार जो वाटरलू की लड़ाई है, ठीक है, वो मेरे सारे जीत पे पानी फेर देगी. आने वाली जनरेशन्स अगर किसी चीज को याद रखेंगी तो वो सिर्फ और सिर्फ किसको याद रखेंगी? नेपोलियन. एंड नेपोलियन वाज नोइंग दिस that the history will forget all the victories which I have made, right? But the history will remember Napoleon for what? The history will remember Napoleon forever for its civil code, Napoleon Code. So Napoleon was knowing this. So this is Napoleon Code, right? That's the most important point. So this is Napoleon Code. Okay. I hope you have got some idea about Napoleon Code. Can you write 50 words on this Napoleon Code? लिख सकते हो. Napoleon Code में सारी बातें लिख देना. Feudal privileges और वो सारी चीजें, class privileges. Lastly, you will write that it was inclined towards patriarchy to some extent. At many instances, we see the women rights were compromised. Okay, women were treated as inferior in comparison to the men. ऐसे लिखना है. You don't need to remember the entire provisions. Provisions का रट्टा नहीं मारना है. What do you understand? Try to write in your answer. Okay, clear? Now, Napoleon Code, is it a reform of Napoleon? Yes, this is a reform of Napoleon. So is the Napoleon Code only reform of Napoleon, or apart from this Napoleon introduced some other reforms also? The answer is apart from this Napoleon also introduced some other reforms. Look here, education system. He introduced reforms in education system. He financed many public work projects including the beautification of Paris. That is the most important thing. Okay, now okay, रोमन कैथोलिक चर्च के साथ जो बिकॉज रोमन कैथोलिक चर्च वॉज द सिंबल ऑफ एंशिएंट रिजीम, फ्रेंच रिवॉल्यूशन वॉज द सिंबल ऑफ प्रोग्रेसिव रिजीम. ओके, so obviously there will be a conflict. So you can say that an agreement will be signed with Pope, that's called Concordat. Okay, and with that agreement Napoleon will not completely disapprove the role of religion. He will accept the role of religion, but religion will be what? Religion will be maintained according to the state law. Religious authorities will be given salary from the state treasury. मेरी बात समझ गया ना? There will be exams for the religious authorities. Religious authorities के लिए एग्जाम होगा. ऐसा नहीं कि आप मतलब वहां पे भी फ्यूडलिज्म खत्म हो जाएगा. मेरी बात समझ गया ना? Got it? Okay. So this is the most important thing, that he was mature enough to understand that we cannot disapprove religion completely. Okay, and that was a good idea, but still, okay, religion, the influences of the priestly class on the religion could be curtailed. The influences of the Pope, religious authorities could be curtailed. Okay, so religion will be a task that is maintained by the state. That is the most important thing. So education पे भी काम करता है, religion पे भी काम करता है, right? That's the most important point. So you can write some points here. देखो, जो Napoleon Code है, entire Napoleon Code, when we talk about this Napoleon Code, so basically this is in the form of two books. ये two books के form में है. This is the technical information about Napoleon Code. One is called Law of Persons and the second is called Law of Things. So Napoleon Code is in the form of two books. Okay, one book is called Law of persons, law of persons, and the another book is called law of things. So this is in the form of two books, law of person and law of things. लॉ ऑफ पर्सन्स में बहुत सारी चीजें आ जाएंगी, लाइक हियर लॉ ऑफ पर्सन्स में क्या आएगा, सिविल राइट्स विल कम, लॉ ऑफ पर्सन में डोमिसाइल, गार्जियनशिप, ट्यूटरशिप विल कम, रिलेशंस बिटवीन पेरेंट्स एंड चाइल्ड विल कम. लिखना नहीं है, बस समझ लो थोड़ा सा, बस ये लिख लिया आपने. नेपोलियन कोड इज इन द फॉर्म ऑफ टू बुक्स, लॉ ऑफ पर्सन एंड लॉ ऑफ थिंग्स. पर्सनल रिलेशन ऑफ द स्पाउस विल कम, लॉ ऑफ पर्सन में ही आएगा ना. मैरिज एंड डाइवोर्स विल कम वेयर, इन द लॉ ऑफ पर्सन. ओके, द डाइवोर्स सिस्टम वाज मेल सेंट्रिक, दिस विल ऑल्सो कम इन द लॉ ऑफ पर्सन. लॉ ऑफ थिंग्स में क्या आ जाएगा, प्रॉपर्टी राइट्स आ जाएगा, ओनरशिप राइट्स आ जाएगा, सक्सेशंस आ जाएगा, डोनेशंस आ जाएगा, कॉन्ट्रैक्ट आ जाएगा, राइट. ऑल दिस विल कम इन द law of things. This is a simple idea that yes, he developed this entire, okay, system of law. Okay, an elaborate system was introduced by him. It was systematically designed, planned, okay, and this will inspire the future generations to come. Many new nations will learn from this Napoleon Code. So this is why, that's the reason we say that Napoleon promoted the progressive ideals of French Revolution. This is also one reason. That's why we are saying. But why here I have written here that what the French people want. This is what Napoleon says. What the French people want. Napoleon said they want what is equality, not liberty. Napoleon कह रहा है कि फ्रांस के लोगों को क्या चाहिए, equality. Why is saying this? Because the revolution started, okay, opposing what, सिस्टम ऑफ क्लास प्रिविलेजेस. उसने कहा हमारे नेपोलियन कोड को देख लो, हमने क्लास प्रिविलेजेस को खत्म किया कि नहीं. डिड ही इंडेड क्लास प्रिविलेजेस? यस. सो ही सेड दैट नेपोलियन फ्रेंच पीपल वांट इक्वलिटी एंड आई हैव डन दिस. नाउ इफ आई एम द एम्परर, देखो, इफ द रूलर इज एन एम्परर, so in that case you can never say that liberty has been granted to the people. कभी भी नहीं कह सकते, यही है लिमिटेशन. अगर आपके पास इंडिविजुअल राइट्स हैं भी और रूलर क्या है, रूलर इज नॉट डेमोक्रेटिकली इलेक्टेड, इफ द रूलर इज एम्परर, इन दैट केस लिबर्टी एज अ वैल्यू, ओके, लिबर्टी, ओके, एज अ प्रोग्रेसिव वैल्यू, और यू कैन से दैट राइट हैज नॉट बीन अप्लाइड इन द सोसाइटी. कभी नहीं होगा, ठीक है. लिबर्टी एक ऐसा कॉन्सेप्ट है जो किसके साथ रिलेट होगा, कॉन्सेप्ट ऑफ रिपब्लिक्स के साथ. व्हेन द सोवरेनिटी लाइज इन द people, in that case liberty will come, and here the sovereignty lies in Napoleon, not in the people. Got it? Okay, that's why liberty. Now another point is that Napoleon himself is the emperor, and what he will do, okay, in the coming years he will conquer many territories or areas in Europe, and he will appoint his friends and relatives as rulers in those countries. देखो कितना बड़ा contradiction है. On one side, what he is doing? He is promoting progressive ideals of revolution through Napoleon Code. On other side, what he is doing? He is an emperor in France. And whenever he invades a new territory, a new country, what he does? He appoint his friend, he appoint his relative as the emperor in that country. And he says that the dynastic succession, the hereditary rulers has been uprooted. The hereditary rule has been uprooted. Hereditary rule को uproot करके मैंने अपने दोस्त को ruler बना दिया. What will happen? In long term, the people's sentiments will be with Napoleon or the sentiments will go against Napoleon. लंबे समय में क्या होगा? The people's sentiments will go against Napoleon. Napoleon कुछ गलती भी कर रहा है. Napoleon is an emperor. बहुत सारी अच्छी चीजें कर रहा है, बट साथ ही साथ वो कुछ गलतियां कर रहा है, मिस्टेक्स कर रहा है, जिसके कॉन्सिक्वेंसेस उसको पता नहीं है कि आने वाले टाइम में क्या होगा. ठीक है ना. So Napoleon will see the consequences also, okay, that we need to understand. Now look at this map, okay. This map gives us a very good understanding, okay, of military conquest of, okay, Napoleon. Now look at this. In 1789, 1789 is the year of revolution. We all know this. Are you getting this map on the screen? 1789 is the year of revolution, and French frontiers are marked by this color, French frontiers, okay. Now French frontier in 1799 marked by this color, okay. You will see it has been marked, okay. 1789 में क्या है? This color, French frontiers marked by this color. It means this is the territory or boundary of France in 1789. अच्छा 1799 में टेरिटरी और बाउंड्री हैज बीन एक्सटेंडेड और नॉट? देखो ये एरिया फ्रांस में ऐड हुआ कि नहीं 1799 में? ध्यान से देखना मैप को, ऐड हुआ 1799 में। कौन आया है फर्स्ट काउंसिल? एज फर्स्ट काउंसिल नेपोलियन आया। अच्छा काउंसलेट सिस्टम के पहले क्या था? डायरेक्टरी रूल। एंड नेपोलियन इंश्योर्ड मेनी इंपॉर्टेंट मिलिट्री विक्ट्रीज फॉर फ्रांस, मैंने बताया था, ठीक है। पहले डायरेक्टरी रूल में ही उसकी मिलिट्री अचीवमेंट्स है, देन कॉन्सुलेट सिस्टम में आके वो फर्स्ट काउंसिल बनता है। तो ये सारे एरियाज जो ऐड होते हैं, द टेरिटोरियल, you can say that the territorial boundaries are extending. So these all are the efforts of Napoleon. We see here, look at the boundaries. The boundaries, these are new territories. Okay, these are new territories which became part of France in the year 1799. This is the achievement of Napoleon. इसके बाद फिर देखो, areas annexed by France. These all are the areas annexed by France. Areas occupied by France. Here France has occupied this territory. It means it under Napoleon, this was also under the control and dominance of France. States set up by France. It means here France had set up, okay, new rulers. He has uprooted what? Absolute monarchs in that countries. Okay, he has uprooted absolute monarchs or the dynastic rulers. और यहाँ पे क्या किया उसने? न्यू रूलर्स को इंस्टॉल किया. These new rulers are his friend and relatives, जो उसके खुद के फ्रेंड्स और रिलेटिव्स है. इसके बाद देखो, वेनिशियन टेरिटरी गिवन टू ऑस्ट्रिया बाय फ्रांस. लुक हियर, इट मींस दिस टेरिटरी वाज आल्सो कंट्रोल्ड बाय फ्रांस. नाउ दिस इज अ सिंपल आइडिया that these are the original territories of France, but the influence, the power and influence of Napoleon are extended outside these territorial boundaries also. That is one of the most important part. Again the same concept you can see here, that the blue colored map here, the dark blue is what? French Empire. Now this light blue color, all these are the territories which were controlled and conquered by Napoleon. ये सारा नेपोलियन ने ऐड किया था, जीत लिया था. That's why I use this line that Napoleon changed the entire political map of Europe. Now this is what? Okay, these territories are allies of France, but later the situations will change. This is the year 1810. ठीक है ना? तो देखो, a time will come when Napoleon, in Napoleon's era, a time will come that balance of power will shift in the favor of Napoleon. But there is another country which is very powerful, that is Great Britain. बैलेंस ऑफ पावर किसके फेवर में शिफ्ट कर गया है? नेपोलियन के. बट विच कंट्री इज मोर पावरफुल हियर? ग्रेट ब्रिटेन. बट ग्रेट ब्रिटेन वाज फॉलोइंग अ पॉलिसी, एंड व्हाट वाज दैट पॉलिसी? दैट पॉलिसी इज कॉल्ड पॉलिसी ऑफ स्प्लेंडेड आइसोलेशन इन यूरोप. यूरोप की इंटरनल पॉलिटिक्स से जानबूझकर खुद को अलग रखने की पॉलिसी वाज फॉलोइंग ग्रेट ब्रिटेन. So in this Napoleon's era, this time period, 1804 to 1814-15, what was happening? Great Britain was following a policy, and that is called policy of splendid isolation in Europe. It means Great Britain was trying to keep itself away from the internal politics of Europe. And what could be the possible reason for this? क्या हो सकता है reason? Guess करो. ग्रेट ब्रिटेन क्यों खुद को अलग रख रहा था इंटरनल पॉलिटिक्स से? बैटल ऑफ प्लासी सुबह ही तो पढ़ा मॉडर्न इंडिया में 1757 के बाद. व्हाट वाज हैपनिंग? कॉलोनियलिज्म. एग्जैक्टली, कॉलोनियलिज्म. ब्रिटेन वाज द कंट्री विच वाज हैविंग द लार्जेस्ट नंबर ऑफ कॉलोनीज ऑल ओवर द वर्ल्ड, राइट? The system of colonialism was promoted by Great Britain, and Great Britain was getting enormous profits from its colonies. Okay, so that is the businessman perspective, that why to indulge in local politics, why to indulge in war? Instead we should focus on maximizing our gains or maximizing our profits. Clear? So that was happening. Got it? Great Britain क्या कर रहा था? अपने profits को maximize करने पे काम कर रहा. क्या? यही तो खास बात है. ठीक है, बिजनेसमैन बनोगे तो रोज कुछ ना कुछ नया सोचोगे, राइट? Now, the next important thing, no risk, no gain. British took a lot of risk. बहुत ज़्यादा risk लिया, ऐसा नहीं है. Now, I am coming to the point. I hope now you have understood that what is Napoleon Code. Earlier it was known as Civil Code in France in the year 1804. Now in the year 1807, it was renamed as Napoleon Code. It was progressive, and this Napoleon Code was promoting progressive ideals of revolution not only in France but in all Europe. Okay, and in this way also, in this sense also, we can say that Napoleon was the child of revolution. In this sense also we can say that Napoleon was child of revolution. Clear? He attacked on the symbols of medievalism. ठीक है, उस पर अटैक किया. He now the next important point about education. About education, you can write few points about education. Write this. Okay. Right. Focus on education. Focus on improving education system of France. Focus on promoting education. Focus on improving education system in France. Okay. Network of schools have been created. Network of schools have been created. Network of schools have been created. Okay. Right. Primary school, secondary school, senior secondary school, etc. Primary school, secondary school, senior secondary school, etc. Primary, secondary, senior secondary, etc. Right. Next point. देखो, बिफोर नेपोलियन एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन में हिस्सा कौन लेता था? फ्यूडल लॉर्ड्स, सन्स एंड डॉटर्स ऑफ फ्यूडल लॉर्ड्स. अगर आप फ्यूडलिज्म खत्म करोगे तो एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन में नए लोग चाहिए, और वो नए लोग क्या होने चाहिए? दे मस्ट बी एजुकेटेड. So there was a need to promote education because now bureaucratic system was not based on those feudal elements. So you need what? A new class of bureaucrat officers, a new class of leaders. Okay, so here the emphasis of education should be what? Lower class and middle class. मेरी बात समझ गया ना? यहाँ पे सबसे ज्यादा जोर होगा. This is the point here. So you can write here that previously entire administrative offices were held by sons and daughters of feudal lords. Previously, entire administrative offices were held by sons and daughters of feudal lords. Entire administrative offices were held by sons and daughters of feudal lords. Got it? Okay. Sons and daughters of the feudal lords. Right, next point. Since Napoleon had ended or rejected feudalism and class-based privileges. Feudalism and class-based privileges. Feudalism and class-based privileges. So, in this situation, France needed a new class of leaders and bureaucrat officers. In this situation, France needed a new class of leaders and bureaucrat officers. Okay, and for this reason, the education among the lower class and the middle class was the promotion of education among the lower class and the middle class was more focused upon. It was more focused upon. सबसे ज़्यादा यहाँ focus किया गया. And the next point, the main emphasis was on secondary education. That is the most important point. And next main emphasis was on secondary education. That was extremely important. It means education system was divided into two parts. Education system was divided into two parts. One is under age 12, and the second part is over age 12. Under age 12 and over age 12. There were two parts. Okay? Here, what was being taught? Okay, first 4 classes under age 12, reading, writing, history, and use of arms. That is the most important point. Reading, writing, study of history, as well as use of arms. Okay, a basic study. Now here also, okay, the education over age 12, the education was divided into two parts. Okay, in first part, if the language, history, philosophy, literature, poetry, this will be one part. Language, philosophy, history, literature, poetry. And the second, we see the study of mathematics, physics, chemistry, military technology, etc. Okay, so this was a kind of broad scientific division, right? ये पूरा का पूरा एक scientific division था. Got it? Scholarships were also provided. Scholarships were also provided. Scholarships were also provided. Okay. Great emphasis on inclusion of patriotic elements in the curriculum or the syllabus. Great emphasis on inclusion of patriotic elements. Great emphasis on the inclusion of patriotic elements in the syllabus. Inclusion of patriotic elements in the syllabus. That now, right, next point, right, education and religion. Education and religion, this approach is also very important. Education and religion, right? Education and religion, right? Since religion, since separation of church and state was done by Napoleon, since separation of church and state, that is one of the most important achievement. Separation of church and state was done by Napoleon. Since separation of church and state was done by Napoleon, right, next point. Okay, so the teaching of religion was no longer a part of the public school curriculum. The teaching of religion was no longer a part of the public uh, education curriculum. Okay, teaching of religion. पहले क्या था? I told you that religion and state, they were not separate. So religion, how it will be dominating? Because it was a part of your study. आपको पढ़ना भी था, and that's why religious authorities were gaining influence. Now the most important thing. Now finally, I told you one thing, that Napoleon was smart enough to understand that he did not disapprove religion. Religion को पूरी तरह से disapprove नहीं किया. Because all these things cannot be done in a sudden talk now. So what is happening here? Religion and state has been separated completely. Now what Napoleon is doing? Napoleon, right, there will be a concordate or agreement between, okay, state. Okay, write this point, that is very important, right? Concordate between Pope and Napoleon. Concordate between Pope and Napoleon. And what is this concordate between Pope and Napoleon? Okay, so in this concordate, write this: Napoleon did not disapprove completely the role of religion in society. Napoleon did not disapprove completely. Napoleon did not disapprove completely the role of religion in society. He did not disapprove completely the role of religion in society. Okay. Right, next point. Napoleon allowed some of the religious elementary schools to be re-established. Napoleon allowed some of the elementary Napoleon allowed some of the elementary religious schools, some of the elementary religious schools to be re-established. Okay. Right, next point. Okay, girls education. Girls education में क्या है? Read this. Napoleon felt that Napoleon felt that girls' education. Napoleon felt that education was important for girls. Napoleon felt that education was important for girls. Okay. But he also suggested that, but he also suggested that girls should be given the education in which girls should be given education in which they should learn domestic skills. They should learn domestic skills, and they should also learn those skills which are needed, and they should also learn those skills which are needed to please their husbands. Those skills which are needed to please their husbands. Right, next point. Napoleon has been criticized. Napoleon has been criticized for his attitude towards women. For his attitude towards women. So where we see the discrimination? Property, laws, then divorce, then education. There are three instances where you are familiar now, okay, about this. There are more to be studied here, और भी बहुत सारी चीजें हैं, but we are not discussing that. Now we have a general idea about education. Now we have a general idea about the Napoleon Code, and GS is all about what? General idea. If someone asks you, you should not be blank. मेरी बात समझ गया? And you must be able to relate different things. That's what interdisciplinary approach. यही जरूरत है. तो किसी टॉपिक में बहुत अंदर जाने की जरूरत नहीं है. You need to know the basics, general aspects, and you should be able to correlate the things. That is the only thing that we need here. Now the third important point is Continental System of Napoleon. That is a very important topic. That is Continental System of Napoleon. Continental System of Napoleon. तो देखो मैंने क्या बताया था? In this entire Europe, now the BOP shifted in the favor of France. BOP shifted in the favor of France. Balance of power shifted in the favor of France. But there is another country. The name of this country is Great Britain. The name of that country was Great Britain. Okay. And Great Britain here, okay, Great Britain was rival of France. Rival of France. When it comes to balance of power, Great Britain was also powerful. Great Britain was also powerful, but Great Britain followed a policy, and that was policy of splendid isolation. Policy of splendid isolation in Europe. Great Britain was following this policy. Policy of splendid isolation in Europe, keeping itself away from the internal politics or European affairs. Great Britain was doing what? Keeping itself away from internal politics of the continent. Keeping itself away from the internal politics of continent. So Great Britain was not interested in what is going on inside the continent. And Great Britain has one supremacy, and that is supremacy of naval power. Supremacy of naval power. So Great Britain was having this supremacy of naval power, and we are discussing this time period 18, 14, 15, right? This time period, that is, this is the first half of 19th century, right? In this period, company was ruling India. India में कौन rule कर रहा था? Company, right? Now, what is the main reason for the economic prosperity of Great Britain here? The main reason was, okay, colonies. The profitable trade and commerce from the colonies. That is one reason. And what about industrial revolution? Is it the second reason? Industrial revolution started when? Industrial revolution started first in Great Britain. And what is the time period? 1760s. And if Great Britain wants to promote industrial revolution, in that case, it will have to do what? It will have to develop the colonialism. Na? So colonies. Promotion of industrial revolution was served by these colonies, and these colonies, among all these colonies, the most profitable colony was India, and that's why this was called classic colony. The most profitable colony was India. So देखो, if you will compare the quantum of trade and commerce which Great Britain was doing with the European countries and with the quantum of trade and commerce which it was doing with the colonies, which is more greater? The quantum of trade and commerce that was done with the colonies, that is greater. कॉलोनीज से होने वाला ट्रेड वॉल्यूम ज़्यादा था, प्रॉफिट ज़्यादा था, एंड दैट वाज द मेन रीजन फॉर द prosperity of Great Britain. Great Britain was emerging as a manufacturing hub due to this industrial revolution. So you need to sell manufactured goods, and Great Britain was selling the manufactured goods where? In the colonies, and it was easily getting the raw materials which were needed in the industries from the colonies. Got it? So this all was happening. So this system of colonialism, the trade and commerce with the colonies, is the main, you can say that is the economic backbone for the Great Britain. Naval strength is the backbone for the Great Britain. Trade and commerce with the colonies is the backbone for the Great Britain. Now Napoleon has challenged all. सबको चैलेंज दे दिया. बच कौन गया? ग्रेट ब्रिटेन. तो का इसको भी चैलेंज देता हूँ. ठीक है. पावर आने के बाद क्या होता है? आदमी अंधा हो जाता है. पावर करप्ट्स, पावर मेक्स मैन ब्लाइंड. नाउ नेपोलियन विल डू व्हाट? ब्रिटेन चुपचाप अपना ट्रेड एंड कॉमर्स कर रहा है, एंड व्हाट नेपोलियन विल डू? नेपोलियन विल चैलेंज द अथॉरिटी ऑफ ग्रेट ब्रिटेन. नेपोलियन विल चैलेंज द अथॉरिटी ऑफ ग्रेट ब्रिटेन. And how Napoleon is going to challenge the authority of Great Britain? This is very interesting. Napoleon was very smart. He was knowing that what is the most powerful element in the army of Great Britain Navy? That is naval supremacy. Okay. And what is the reason of the economic strength of Great Britain? That is trade and commerce with the colonies. Now Napoleon thought that if I will start a economic warfare, and if I will be able to block Great Britain, right, that is continental blockade. If I will stop I will cut all the connections of trade and commerce of Great Britain, in that case Great Britain will become weaker. Economic prosperity will come down. When economic prosperity will come down, we can easily challenge the military of Great Britain. ये इसका तरीका है. So now Napoleon thought for an economic warfare. This is the idea. Now Napoleon thought for an economic warfare. Napoleon thought for an economic warfare. वो economic warfare के बारे में सोच. Fighting an economic warfare. That if he will fight this warfare, and how it will be done? So by the economic blockade, this can be done. By the economic blockade, this can be done. Economic blockade से हम कर सकते हैं, right? Napoleon believed that, read this, if he could isolate Britain economically, he would be able to invade the nation after its economic collapse. Napoleon believed that if he could isolate Britain economically, Napoleon believed that if he could isolate Britain economically, Napoleon believed that if he could isolate Great Britain economically, then he will be able to invade the nation. Then he will be able to invade the nation after its economic collapse. He will be able to invade the nation after its economic collapse. Now I hope you are getting the idea here, that what he is thinking. That he will be able to invade the nation after its economic collapse. Napoleon thinks that this is a very smart idea, but this idea is not smart enough. This will backfire. This will harm France more than Britain. And how this will happen, this we need to discuss. किससे किसको नुकसान ज़्यादा होगा? This will harm France. Okay. Now, देखो कैसे ये होगा. How this blockade can be maintained. Now there are two important facts relating to this. I am writing this fact. One is Berlin Decree. Decree means order. Decree means order, and the second is Milan Decree. Berlin Decree and Milan Decree. And these two decrees or these two orders are the beginning of Continental System or economic blockade against Great Britain. The year is 1806, Berlin Decree, year is 1806, and Milan Decree, year is 1807. Now, what is Napoleon's time period here? Napoleon's era 1804 to 1814-15. This is Napoleon's era, 1806 to 1807. Okay. Now, this decree, this is decree means order. So this decree has been issued by whom? This decree has been issued by Napoleon. Decree order has been issued by whom? So it has been issued by Napoleon. He ordered it, he issued this decree in Berlin. That's why this is called Berlin Decree. यहाँ पे decree order कहाँ issue किया गया? मिलान में. So that's why it's called Milan Decree. So it's very simple. It was issued in Berlin and that's why it is called Berlin Decree. Berlin में issue किया गया and that's why this is called Berlin Decree. Okay. And now what this order says? The order says that, okay, France plus those territories which are under the influence of France plus those territories which are allied with France and sister republics of France, all these countries are ordered not to do trade and commerce with Great Britain. They are ordered not to import the goods coming from Great Britain. ठीक है, क्या कह रहा है? केवल फ्रांस की बात नहीं कह रहा है. He is saying that France plus those territories which are in the influence of France, which are in the influence of France, those territories which are controlled by France, those territories which are sister republics of France. Why we are calling sister republics? छोटी छोटी countries है. Napoleon attacked, okay, removed the monarch and installed a new ruler who was his friend and republic. In this way, they become the sister republics. So all these countries, all they are ordered not to do trade and commerce with Great Britain, not to do trade and commerce with Great Britain. They are ordered not to do import of goods from Great Britain. Great Britain से कुछ भी नहीं परचेस करना है, right? All connections needed to be cut. That is the point. That all connections needed to be cut. Great Britain के साथ आपके सारे connections क्या होने चाहिए? Cut हो जाने चाहिए. ठीक है? Now he is also saying that if any ship of any of these territories or the countries found to be trading with Great Britain, then French army will do what? French army will attack that ship. French army may seize that ship. Yeah. सिर्फ order नहीं है. If you are found doing trade and commerce, then your ship will be attacked. Your ship, the goods that is contained on the ship may be seized. It means this is a strict order. Okay. It means if the ships are found to be doing trade and commerce, they might be attacked and they might be seized. They might be attacked, they might be seized. And why he is doing this? He thinks that if I will do this, so European trade and commerce, basically British trade and commerce in Europe will come down and the economy of Europe, economy of Great Britain will crumble. Okay, that is the idea. Now what is Milan Decree? So देखो, this decree or this order was implemented by this decree. यही difference है. Berlin Decree, okay, is what? Implementation of, sorry, Milan Decree is what? Implementation of Berlin Decree. Very simple. So write this. This is implementation part. This is implementation part. This is implementation part. This is Berlin Decree's implementation is Milan Decree. इसी का implementation क्या है? Milan Decree. It means here what will happen implementation part में क्या होगा? The French army ships, naval ships will be authorized, right? That you can attack any ship, you can seize a ship. तो इस सब के लिए क्या हो जाएगा? Authorization मिल जाएगा, right? The French army will will get authorization that they could do search any ship and all this. ठीक है ना? So this Berlin and Milan decree both are okay targeted against what? Great Britain. Both are a part of what? Okay, economic blockade against Great Britain. That's also called Continental System against Great Britain. यहाँ तक समझ में आया? If someone asks you what is economic blockade or continental system, you can easily answer, right? Yes, ask your question. Yes, Aswini. Actually, when I will discuss unification of Italy and unification of Germany, so I will have to discuss these territories. That's why I am not discussing. Because Napoleon did what? Okay. Napoleon indirectly initiated the task of unification of Italy and Germany. This is the concept. And when we will learn this concept, we need to discuss those territories. Okay? And that's why I am skipping the names. Okay? So I will write each and every name when I will discuss the next topic. Unification of Italy and Germany. तो वो जानबूझ के skip कर रहा हूँ ताकि वो repeat ना हो. ठीक है? And you will be able to understand. ये part समझ में आया? Is it clear? Now, what is the effect of this system? That we need to understand. What is the effect of this system? This we need to understand. Okay. What is the expectation of Napoleon and what is the outcome of this policy? This we need to understand. What is the expectation of Napoleon? What was the expectation of Napoleon and what was the outcome of this policy? Outcome of this policy. So देखो, Napoleon expected that the trade and commerce, okay, British exports will be declined. अगर कोई खरीदेगा ही नहीं तो क्या होगा? आपके export decline होंगे. When the exports will be declined, what will happen? Okay, flow of bullions will be affected. Okay, your income will be affected. When income come down, so economic challenges will appear. इकोनॉमिक चैलेंजेस से क्या होगा? कितना सोच रखा था इसने बर्बाद करने के लिए ब्रिटेन को? इकोनॉमिक चैलेंजेस से क्या होगा? इन्फ्लेशन, इकोनॉमिक चेंजेस, अनएम्प्लॉयमेंट. सो व्हेन देयर विल बी प्रॉब्लम्स, ओके, आई कैन इजीली डिफीट ग्रेट ब्रिटेन, बट दिस डिड नॉट हैपन. ऐसा हुआ नहीं. एट दिस टाइम ग्रेट ब्रिटेन वाज अ इंडस्ट्रियलाइज्ड नेशन and it was the first industrialized country of Europe, not only Europe but all over the world. So this is the most important point here, that in Great Britain 1760s industrialization started, and in this time period, it means between this time period 1804 to 1814-15, already what has happened? Expansion of industrial revolution in Britain. ये भी हो चुका है. Previously the industrial revolution was what? Textile revolution. लेकिन अब वो इंडस्ट्रियल रेवोल्यूशन पहले से ज्यादा क्या हो चुका है? इट हैज बिकम more diversified than before. It's not only textile revolution. Okay, variety of goods are being produced in the manufacturing, in the industries of Great Britain, and these goods will be cheaper or not? Yes, they will be cheaper. What about the other countries? Expansion of industrial revolution in other countries of Europe has not happened till far. Now what will happen? Industries will make cheaper goods, and France was also importing cheaper goods from Great Britain. ठीक है? The cloths, the jackets, then all this, France was also importing. The areas which were controlled by France and the sister republics, they were also importing cheaper goods from Great Britain. ये सब Great Britain से क्या मंगवा रहे थे? Cheaper goods मंगवा रहे थे. Now what will happen? Suddenly, okay, when import will be restricted, the people will start having the scarcity of goods. जैसे मान लो कि चाइना से हम इतना ज़्यादा इंपोर्ट करते हैं, अगर अचानक से चाइनीज़ इंपोर्ट बंद हो जाए तो इंडिया में लोग बेरोजगार हो जाएंगे कि नहीं? बताओ, लॉजिकल सोचो. हो जाएंगे. बहुत सारी शॉप्स बंद हो जाएंगी. ये अलग बात है कि इसका कुछ और बेनिफिट हो, बट दिस विल हैपन. द सेम हैपेंड हियर. सडनली द इंपोर्ट स्टॉप्ड, okay, and unemployment will increase in France and the other countries. Suddenly the import stopped and scarcity of goods will emerge in these countries. Now the people will become unhappy, the people will become dissatisfied. The people will start criticizing the policies of नेपोलियन. वो लोग जो कभी फैन हुआ करते थे वो अब क्या करने लगे, नेपोलियन को क्रिटिसाइज करने लगे. दे स्टार्टेड क्रिटिसाइजिंग द पॉलिसीज ऑफ नेपोलियन. Those states which were, you can say that the partner states or allied states or the satellite states or the sister republics of France, now they are not happy, they are discontented with the policies of Napoleon. So what has happened? Due to the single policy, accumulation of dissatisfaction, not only for the mass of the masses but also of those rulers who were previously supporting what policies of Napoleon, because trade and commerce have declined. When trade and commerce will decline, what will happen? Shipbuilding activities will be declined. So all those enterprises and business will be closed which were dependent on Britain for trade and commerce. This will happen. There will be scarcity of goods and commodities in these countries because the people were dependent on the cheaper goods that was coming from Great Britain. This all will happen. Okay, so this created what? Dissatisfaction in the minds of the people and in the minds of those rulers also who were previously supporting what? Napoleon. This is one thing. And what is the next important thing? Next important thing is that, okay, when we talk about British trade and commerce, so the volume of Britain's trade in Europe and the volume of Britain's trade in colonies, when you will find that during this time period, the volume of Britain's trade in Europe declined to 25 to 45%, but the volume of Britain trade with the rest of the world had a sharp rise during this time. It has a sharp rise. ब्रिटेन का ट्रेड एंड कॉमर्स यूरोप की कंट्रीज के साथ डिक्लाइन हुआ, बट एट द सेम टाइम कॉलोनीज के साथ ट्रेड एंड कॉमर्स क्या हो गया? बढ़ गया. ये वैसे ही हुआ जैसे कोविड में ऑफलाइन एजुकेशन प्रभावित हुआ, देन ऑनलाइन एजुकेशन कहाँ पहुंच गया? टॉप पे. और जैसे ही फिर कोविड खत्म हुआ, फिर ऑनलाइन प्लेटफॉर्म्स जमीन पे. मेरी बात समझ गया ना? तो ये चलता रहता है, वैसा ही हुआ कुछ, राइट? व्हाट वी सी हियर दैट वॉल्यूम ऑफ ट्रेड एंड कॉमर्स in Europe with the European countries will decline. This is true. Okay, when you compare to pre 1806 levels and after that, so it was declined to almost 25 to 40%. But with the rest of the world or with the colonies, this volume of trade and commerce, right, what happened? It increased. The volume of trade and commerce will increase. That's the most important point. The volume of trade and commerce will increase. This all is happening. Now, if you will create problems for Great Britain, do you think that Great Britain will remain silent? कि ठीक है बेटा, ग्रेट ब्रिटेन कॉन्टिनेंटल सिस्टम लगा दिया तो हम देखते रहेंगे? नो, ग्रेट ब्रिटेन विल नॉट रिमेन साइलेंट. अब देखो क्या है, इसके पहले क्या है? देयर आर सम कंट्रीज. फॉर एग्जांपल, वन कंट्री वाज रशिया, एंड रशिया वाज रूल्ड बाय एब्सोल्यूट मोनार्क. Russia was ruled by absolute. There was absolute monarchical setup in Russia. There was another country that was Prussia. And Prussia was also ruled by absolute monarch. Here we see dynastic rule, absolute monarchical setup, dynastic rule, absolute monarchical setup. And the third important country was Austria. There are other players as well, but I am writing the names of most important countries. Here also there was absolute monarchical system, dynastic rule. It means all these three countries were having ancient regime in their political, social and economic structure. इसमें वही पुराना वाला सिस्टम चला रहा था. All these countries were having what? Ancient regime. All these countries were having ancient regime. There were monarchical setup. The king's rights were absolute here. Monarchical setup. The king's rights were absolute. Feudalism was a part of the structure, political structure and social structure. And the religion was one of the most dominant force. Separation of that state, religion, this was all not done. It means ये पुरानी दुनिया में चल रहा था. This is ancient regime. और दूसरी तरफ क्या हो गया? What has happened? France. What about France? France is in ancient regime or modern regime? Modern regime. Napoleon is an emperor, but he did what? Progressive ideals of revolution were promoted by him. Progressive ideals were promoted by him. And he is also promoting these progressive ideals of revolution outside France. केवल फ्रांस में ही नहीं, फ्रांस के बाहर भी वो प्रोग्रेसिव आइडियल्स ऑफ रिवॉल्यूशन को प्रमोट कर रहा है. इज ऑल्सो प्रोमोटिंग दीज प्रोग्रेसिव आइडियल्स ऑफ रिवॉल्यूशन outside France. Now tell me, who will fear or who will try to oppose, who will try to check the progressive ideals of revolution? These countries ये रोकना चाहेंगे. ठीक है, they don't like progressive ideals of revolution, क्योंकि अगर यहाँ आइडियल्स ऑफ रिवॉल्यूशन आ गया तो मोनार्कियल सिस्टम खत्म, डोमिनेंस ऑफ रिलीजम खत्म, फ्यूडलिज्म खत्म. दे विल ट्राई टू चेक द प्रोग्रेसिव आइडियल्स ऑफ रिवॉल्यूशन. ये किस चीज को चेक करना चाहते हैं? प्रोग्रेसिव आइडियल्स ऑफ रिवॉल्यूशन. अगर ऑस्ट्रिया से कहोगे कि फ्रांस में नेपोलियन को हटा के बर्बन डायनेस्टी के रूलर को लाते हैं, नेपोलियन कहेगा, तो ऑस्ट्रिया विल से व्हाट, बहुत अच्छा आइडिया भाई, नेपोलियन को हटाओ, बर्बन डायनेस्टी रूलर को लाओ. इससे क्या होगा? यहाँ पे रिग्रेसिव चेंज आएगा, तो यहाँ के लोग डिमांड नहीं करेंगे. अदरवाइज पीपल विल से दिल मांगे मोर. पता चल जाएगा लोगों को कि भाई एब्सोल्यूट मोनार्क का टाइम खत्म हो रहा है. दिस वाज हैपनिंग. सो नेपोलियन वाज कॉन्स्टेंटली फाइटिंग विद दीज कंट्रीज, सो दे वेर हिज ग्रेट एनिमीज. ठीक है, ये उसके सबसे बड़े दुश्मन है. नाउ हु विल ज्वाइन दिस ब्लॉक? दिस इज व्हाट? एंटी फ्रेंच कोalition. यही कोalition क्या है? एंटी फ्रेंच कोalition. द इंटरेस्ट ऑफ ऑल दीज थ्री आर सिमिलर, so this coalition is what? Anti-France coalition. This coalition is anti-France coalition. This coalition is anti-France coalition. Now tell me, who will join this coalition? Great Britain. का बहुत परेशान कर लिया बेटा. और बिजनेसमैन क्या करता है? खुद नहीं लड़ाई लड़ता है, फंडिंग कर देता है, पैसा दे देगा वॉर के लिए. Now who will join this coalition? Great Britain will join this coalition. Great Britain will join this coalition. So when Great Britain will join this coalition, what will happen? Great Britain will provide funds for war, and second, it will also provide its powerful navy. And finally, what we see, that Great Britain abandons its policy of a splendid isolation. Great Britain is forced to abandon, मजबूरी में छोड़ना पड़ा इसको, policy of a splendid isolation. So Great Britain will provide funds for war. It will provide funds for war. It will provide its powerful navy support to this anti-Napoleon or anti-France coalition, right? And it will be forced to abandon its policy of a splendid isolation. अब बताओ, अब जब वॉर होगा क्या चांसेस हैं? फ्रांस विल बी डिफीटेड. तो अगर ये फ्रांस ने गलती की नहीं होती, ग्रेट ब्रिटेन ने स्प्लेंडेड आइसोलेशन की पॉलिसी को नहीं छोड़ता, गॉट इट, और ये कोalition पावरफुल नहीं बन पाता. मेरी बात समझ गए? दिस इज द एंटायर एपिसोड. नाउ व्हाट विल हैपन? राइट दिस, a war was fought between France and these forces. What are these forces? Russia plus Austria plus Prussia. It will be supported by Great Britain. And in this war, Napoleon will be defeated. So he writes that I was defeating in the Battle of Waterloo. In history, that is very famously known as Battle of Waterloo. Now the Napoleon was defeated in the year 1814. Napoleon was defeated. Okay, got it? Now, after this defeat, Napoleon was defeated. The war is fought in like this, 1813-14 लिख सकते हो, 1813-14. That is Battle of Waterloo, right? Now he was defeated and okay, he was just imprisoned on an island. But from where he will do what? ठीक है, there is an island that is Elba, there is another island that is Saint Helena. So he will be imprisoned. He will again make another attempt to regain its lost power and control, and he will again be defeated. So एक बार हार गया, he will again make an attempt, he will again be defeated. And that's why I was writing this year 1814, 1815. So in 1815 he will again make another attempt, but he was defeated again. And then he was sent to St. Helena Island, where he died in 1821. Okay, he was imprisoned where he died. Okay, so Napoleon was imprisoned and he died. So this happened. This is the end of Napoleon. This is the end of Napoleon. So Napoleon's era in Europe is what? This time period 1804 to 1814 15. 1804 to 1814 15. This is Napoleon's era came to an end. Now, Napoleon was the symbol of what? Progressive elements or regressive elements? Progressive, right? He was promoting the ideals of revolution. So once Napoleon will be defeated, what will happen? क्या होगा? यूरोप में old order will come back, right? Progressive ideas will be curtailed. Old order will come back, and all those changes which were introduced by Napoleon will be declared null and void. ठीक है? And again, what will happen? Dynastic rule will be established in France. Dynastic rule will be established in those countries which were previously, okay, conquered by France. Okay, तो अब पुराना ऑर्डर फिर से क्या आ जाएगा? वापस आएगा. And that's what Vienna Congress 1815. That's also very important topic, Vienna Congress. That too I will discuss. तो देखो, ये डिस्कशन हमारा केवल 1.5 आवर का है, और इस डिस्कशन से आपने कुछ आइडियाज सीखे. डोंट बिलीव कि वॉट एवर यू हैज रिटन ईच एंड एवरी लाइन you are going to need in that exam. No, the crux of all those discussions, you keep it in mind. If someone says Napoleon, you must be familiar with some few issues, core issues. ठीक है? Exactly, UPSC is doing what? They are asking the questions in which they are linking 2 or 3 topics all together. So for that we need to develop a vision. And the basic purpose of our class is not to make class notes and remember each and every line. Yes, we will make a running notes, but by that discussion, we will try to grasp the understanding, and that understanding will be used and utilized while writing the answers. मेरी बात समझ गया ना? ठीक है, तो इसमें बिल्कुल तनाव नहीं लेना है. If you are forgetting some facts, it's okay. And वैसे भी I don't discuss those facts which are not necessary. I used to eliminate all those facts and informations. I used to discuss only those facts which are the part of a string of facts. It means which are needed to construct the understanding of a story, a development that is needed. Okay, तो अब आपको years भी याद है. Okay, how many phases after French Revolution 1789? कितने phases थे? Just unmute yourself and give answer. Total phases 5. First phase from 1789 to 92. What was the name of this phase? नोट्स मत देखो, यही गलती है. जब हम ये सोचते हैं कि आज जो पढ़ा कल रिवाइज करेंगे, परसों ऐसा होगा नहीं. जो क्लास में पढ़ो वो क्लास में पढ़ो. मेरी क्लास में जो पढ़ते हो तो ये सोच के बैठो कि क्लास में जो पढ़ा वो वहीं याद हो गया, बाकी टाइम में आप अपना इकोनॉमिक्स, ज्योग्राफी ये सब पढ़ते रहो. राइट? फेज ऑफ मॉडरेट रिपब्लिकनिज्म, ठीक है ना? और 1790 to 1795, what was the name? Phase of radical republicanism. Reign of terror. 95 to 99, which system? Consulate system. We all know about this. 99 to 1804, sorry, 95 to 99, directory rule, 5-man directory rule. Then 1799 to 1804, what we see? Consulate system. Napoleon has the first council. 1804 to 1814 15, what we see? Napoleon's era. Why it is important? Why this topic is important? Napoleon is important for his military conquest, what he did after conquering the territories. Okay, how he promoted the ideas of revolution, which ideas of revolution he promoted, which ideas of revolution he discouraged. Got it? What is Napoleon Code? How it is progressive, how it is a reflection of progressive ideas of Renaissance and Age of Enlightenment period. Right? What is Napoleon's continental policy against Great Britain? How did an anti-France coalition came into existence? Which were the units of this coalition? We all know this: Austria, Prussia, Russia, that is supported by Great Britain. So that is the general idea that now we have. Clear? Right? Chaliye. Have any question? और जो ये मैंने सिस्टर रिपब्लिक्स और ये सारे कॉन्सेप्ट बताए हैं, आई विल डिस्कस इट इन द नेक्स्ट चैप्टर. इटली और जर्मनी का यूनिफिकेशन व्हेन आई विल डिस्कस ऑल दोज टेरिटरीज ऑन द मैप. तो आपको याद हो जाएगा, ठीक है ना. दैट्स वाई आई स्किप्ड यूजिंग अ सिंगल वर्ड, ओके, कि कॉम्प्लिकेटेड ना हो, वहां हम उसको डिस्कस करेंगे. ठीक है, राइट रवि, इज इट ओके? ठीक है. बुक पढ़ने की जरूरत नहीं है, बिल्कुल नहीं है. वर्ल्ड हिस्ट्री में एनसीईआरटी बुक बिल्कुल नहीं है, इट्स नॉट नीडेड. ठीक है. क्लास लेक्चर्स को ठीक से सुनो, इट्स नॉट नीडेड बिकॉज एवरीथिंग हैज ऑलरेडी बीन इंक्लूडेड. ठीक है ना. अब वाई आई एम सेइंग एनसीईआरटी बुक नॉट नीडेड बिकॉज वर्ल्ड हिस्ट्री इज नॉट अ पार्ट ऑफ प्रीलिम्स एग्जामिनेशन. अगर ये प्रीलिम्स का हिस्सा होता तो मैं ये जरूर कहता कि आप एनसीईआरटी बुक्स को पढ़ोगे, but it is the part of mains exam only. We need to develop an understanding of all those international events in 18th century and we can easily do in our classes. ठीक है ना. तो मॉडर्न इंडिया के लिए एनसीईआरटी पढ़ो, एंशिएंट के लिए एनसीईआरटी पढ़ो, बट हियर एनसीईआरटी इज नॉट रिक्वायर्ड. ओके, रीडिंग एनसीईआरटी इज नॉट. ओके, चलिए, थैंक्स टू ऑल ऑफ यू, वेलकम.